It's 1:30. I'd like to call the December 16, 2013 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Roll call. Commissioner Witcher.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Present.
Commissioner Newton. He emailed saying he had a thing at work that he had to stay for. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline.
Here.
Commissioner Jenkins. Here. Commissioner George. Here. Commissioner Yonkel.
Here.
Okay, first item is the approval of the minutes of the November 18, 2013 meeting. Can I have a motion?
I move that the minutes be approved.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Jenkins. Second.
I'll second, sir.
We have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Any discussion? Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 18, 2013 meeting from Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Can I have your votes, please? There we go. Those are all the ones that were here. Minutes are approved. Okay, the report on license to taxi and record service will be next month. The consent docket, item 4. Do we have a motion concerning the consent docket?
I'll move approval as presented.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve the consent docket.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Hale. Do we have anybody here to speak on it? Nobody signed up for that. Do we have any talk up here on item 4, the consent docket? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Hale to approve the consent docket. Can I have your votes, please? And item is approved. Okay. And we go on to item 5, 5A. Wayne Enterprise, LLC, 7313 Southwest 121 Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73162, to consider an application from Wayne Enterprise, LLC, doing business as NASCAB Shuttle Service for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 100 vehicles in shuttle service. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? Okay. Nobody here. David? Did you want to?
Lloyd might want to speak first, I guess, or has nothing to say. I have an objection to.
Okay. Well, go on up. Let me have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you. David Batson, president and owner of Airport Express. Airport Express has been in business for over 25 years. During the course of this time, I had acquired several other companies. During this period of time, I had the vehicles painted a similar color, put the company's name on it. They were all blue. We, in the last several years, had ordinance change, and it was asked of me not to have the same company on the same colored van with the same letters. And out of respect to the commissioner and to Chairman Kula, which we've talked about on doing this, I converted all of those vehicles out of the different names of those companies that we'd acquired, and we were proud to have acquired them over the time, and put them all into a single entity, Airport Express, to, comply with the current ordinances as I was told that they were. And right now we have Wayne Enterprises coming in to apply for services under NASCAB Shuttle Service with a same name, NASCAB Taxi Service. He's already been applied and approved on and operates. Has the same exact color scheme. He's going to have the same name on it with just the little words shuttle service on it as the difference in it. I see that as going against the ordinance 5624 and specifically item D, and I think that we should consider that that's not accepted per the ordinance. I have the ordinance written out. I know that Amy and Jill are on top of it, know all of that. And hello, Amy, again. Haven't seen you in a while. And it's not Amy? Yeah, that's Jill. She's Amy Douglas, if I remember. You're not?
Paula Yaga.
I am sorry, Paula.
That's fine.
You look familiar. I haven't seen her in so long. Okay. Well, Jill knows, the ordinances. I have copies of it and have the applications from his taxi cab when he did the first 2 pages and the application from his current shuttle service that has a description and pictures of the vehicles. If you care to look at those, I have 10 copies. We could pass them around. I'd like for you to consider that, objecting this as presented. I don't see any problem with him, and I told him I welcomed him to the business. I've known Lloyd for a while, but I have a trouble with the ordinance if we're going to allow somebody to have the same color scheme and the same name on a vehicle with two different types of for-hire business. And that's my objection.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else to speak? Sir, did you want to speak or you want to wait? Okay, you're fine. Okay. Very good. May we have staff input, please?
All right. Well, you've got a completed application before you. We're just recommending approval of the application for the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity as it's been presented.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5A?
I mean, I guess we make a motion before we talk about it on this horseshoe, so I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a
Or we
motion.
can talk about it.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to approve item 5A. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Now, do we have any talk on this item?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead,
Yeah. What about that? Is there, reading what we have in front of me, I don't see that. I guess there's a difference between a shuttle and a taxi, obviously. And the protest is that our shuttles supposed to be all look alike in Oklahoma City and be blue with yellow lettering or whatever, or what? You're recommending, or the city is recommending approval of this, which would, to me, seem that they don't have to be, I guess, but what is the concern that he has, which if he's had to repaint a bunch of vehicles because of this, and now somebody else is coming in and they don't have to repaint or whatever. So.
And so the question here is whether the commission believes that the color scheme or the trademark or the name
is
different enough from another vehicle for hire licensee so that a reasonable citizen would not be confused between the two. So the fact that it's really for the commission to decide whether the addition of the word shuttle underneath NASCAB is different enough for a reasonable person to distinguish between NASCAB, the taxi service, and NASCAB, the shuttle service.
Okay. But they're both owned by the same people. I mean, it's the same company.
Right.
So why do they need to be differentiated? Yes.
Well, they're technically different licensees.
Okay.
So I would say that probably the concern between confusion isn't as great because they are owned by the same person as it would be if they were owned by two completely separate companies.
Well, just to go up on the past of what he was talking about several years ago.
Yes.
Airport Shuttle had almost like 3 or 4 different names with the same color scheme. So therefore, you would see that shuttle vehicle and go, well, I don't know which one it is. Airport Shuttle 1, Airport Shuttle 2. I didn't know which one it was. So what he said he did is he put all the shuttles on the one name instead of having 3 or 4 different companies with the same color scheme. So the situation here, from what I see, is licensee is the key, not ownership. And so therefore, this license could be considered similar to the taxi license. That's the question being brought up, I think. And so the question to us is going to be, is this shuttle service too similar in their color scheme and their trademarking towards the taxi service? Am I right, sir? Is that the concern? Please.
Yeah.
Please.
So what it is this is the application from the taxi, this application from the shuttle. So, I mean, there's no difference.
Yeah.
A reasonable person can easily confuse this. And they aren't the same rates.
Right.
That's the one that's approved, and that's the new one that's being asked. That's 2 different deals. We have 2 lines at the airport. It's very easy to get those confused, and they're totally different rates. The shuttle rate, as listed, is $160 per hour. What if you accidentally get on the shuttle thinking you're getting on a taxi that's going to cost $25 to get to the airport, and it takes 30 minutes to get to the airport, and per the rates, that would maybe $80. I know he's not going to do that, but I mean, I have a problem with the way, it's just procedural here.
Thank you. So does that help you?
Yeah.
Mr. Ford?
Little.
I also, to my recollection, where we have a similar situation, and I'm just a Thunder Cab, their shuttle side has a distinctive, it's very much different, their shuttle markings and names from their cab, from their taxi markings and names. So just in terms of consistency, it does seem like it would be reasonable to say that, to think of this as different licenses and make sure that they're distinct, even though it's the same ownership.
Okay. Now might be a good time if you wanted to say something, if you want to. Not. Okay. All right, ma'am.
I have some issues here that are a little different than that raised by Mr. Batson. I have some issue, which is possibly moot at this point, with NASCAB, period. I think there's, the name bothers me. I feel like there is a desire to profit on an established brand, a national brand, profit at a local level because of similarity to NASCAR. Bothers me. NASCAR probably wouldn't like it. I know we're not the trademark infringement police, but I think we have to be prudent on, as a city, approving this. I know we had previously approved the cab. And if is there still nobody here to talk, to ask questions to that's a representative of the company or?
Well, yeah, he is out there.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So I have some questions for you besides.
Okay, hold on one second. So if I could have your name and your address, please, and then fill out one of the green forms when you're done, please. No, later, that's fine.
Lloyd Robinson, 7313 Northwest 121st, Oklahoma City, 73162.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, ma'am.
Are all the vehicles essentially a minivan type vehicle for the shuttle service?
I'm sorry?
Are all the vehicles a minivan type
Yes.
vehicle? How many are there?
Right now, there's only 2.
Okay.
We
Do
haven't
they-
been approved yet, so I haven't put too much towards that.
Do they both bear the number 300?
No.
Every vehicle, even in the
Have
cab,
ident-
has a different number?
Yes, yeah. We just started in the range of 300 to go upward.
Okay.
Because we're hoping the taxi side will grow to 200 plus, maybe 299.
Okay. On the rates for a shuttle service, jumping from 30 to 160, explain that. Is it,
Well,
what
with
is
me-
the 30 and why the jump to 160? Because reasonable and non-discriminatory is sort of what we're evaluating also.
I don't understand where the 30 is coming in.
On the application,
Yeah, we removed all that and went with the 160, just the metered time or measured time as a charter service. Because I'm not operating out of the airport at this time.
so the 30, this is just an update to an application. You're not trying to change a rate?
No,
You just-
I'm not trying
Okay.
to change it.
Okay.
We threw that out in the process, the 30.
And on the rate, it says with $2 per extra person. What's the base number of people, and is that $2 per person per hour? How, as a user, how is this clear to them?
I believe all that was removed also. We went with the flat 160 per hour,
Plus
regardless where
$2 per additional person.
was that left in?
It's on there.
Okay. Well, generally, in this industry, whether it's a taxi or a shuttle, you charge for each additional passenger in the vehicle.
Per hour?
Well, it would just be a one-time charge is what it would be.
Okay. So I guess I have 2 points of view here that are going to be very, very polar opposites. From the point that Mr. Batson made, if I were you, although I disagree with the name NASCAB, I just do. I think you're profiting from a national brand, and I feel like that's inappropriate. However, if I were you and I had a cab service named NASCAB, and I wanted to have a shuttle that I could use the equity I was already building in my cab, it would bother me as the business owner to not be able to use the equity of the brand I'm already establishing in my cab service and not be able to replicate it on my shuttles. So you see, I have two personalities on your item, basically. So I hear you, Mr. Batson. And if it's about the licensee, that's where I would land, is it's per license, and I understand the difference between cab and shuttle. But I think it's probably too late to deal with the name, but I just don't agree with the name NASCAB. And as a city entity approving something that I believe is a trademark infringement, I just have concern about it.
Okay. Do we have any other talk on this item? Yes, sir.
I associate cab with a taxi service. And NASCAB, if I were to see that, my impression would be that is a cab. So given that, and given the so similar a style of both and what the ordinance requires, I don't think that this application is going to hold up.
All right.
That's my opinion. And there you have it. Thank you.
Okay. Sir. Any other talk on this item? Okay. All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner George to approve item 5A, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay. Item is not approved. Thanks, sir. Okay, item 5B, Wayne Enterprise, LLC, 7313 Southwest 121st Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73162. To consider an application from Wayne Enterprise, LLC, doing business as My Driver, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 150 vehicles in limousine service. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
All right, again, you've got a completed application before you. We're recommending approval of the application as presented.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I'll move approval.
We have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Witcher.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Hale. Do we have any discussion on item 5B?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have a question. I think it relates to our rules, or maybe the interpretation of the Municipal Code 56-24C. It says, whether applicant has available for operation at least 5 motor vehicles for hire for taxi services only. So an individual could come in with one vehicle and operate a shuttle service or a limousine service.
Correct, sir. And we've had that before, where they start out that small, one big town car or something, because the reason why we came up with the 5 was because of the 24/7 function of a taxi service. When we had our vehicle for hire sub work that we did years ago, we felt that a fleet needed to be there so they could at least have one on duty at 3 in the morning, say, or 2 in the afternoon on a Sunday or something. They would at least have one on duty. And so we came up with 5 as the magic number to start a taxi service, compared to a limo or shuttle, where it could be just one, as you're saying, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other talk on item 5B? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5B from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Item 5C, Steve McKinney, 201 Windover Cove, Midwest City, Oklahoma, 73130, to consider an application from Steve McKinney, doing business as Backstage Limo, for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate 10 vehicles in a limousine service. Okay, sir, if I could have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Steve McKinney, 201 Windover Cove, Midwest City, 73130. I just want to say thank you for considering my application, and if there's any questions on the application, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you.
All right, thank you very much. Can we have staff input, please?
All right, we're recommending approval of the application as presented.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5C?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion to approve item 5C from Commissioner Witcher and a second from Commissioner Littlefield. Do we have any discussion on this item?
A couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
For the applicant, please.
Sir?
Mr. McKinney. It's 5 vehicles. Is the Cadillac the same kind of sort of, although Cadillac would not approve me saying it looks like this Ford here, but are they basically, they look the same?
All the limos?
Yes.
I have one that is that I'm considering putting in the fleet that is a lot different than a normal limo. It's called a Kodiak. It's pretty exotic looking. But for the most part, I just have the Excursions there.
Okay. It seemed like...
I have a white and black one, and that one, just the black one there.
Oh, and the Cadillac Escalade.
Escalade. Yeah.
Okay. So is the only logo identification you have a small sticker in the back lower left? Because that concerns me a little bit, that there's not... We have license plates on the front and back, something that... Should there be a need to quickly identify a vehicle when someone's driving by, some incident, whatever? How do we
my main
identify
concern for that
a vehicle?
is... I'm sorry.
How's it... I feel like a little logo in the back window just might not be adequate to identify it.
I mean, I can increase the size if necessary. My main concern about that is that I didn't want to really put a whole bunch of like big names on there and stuff, because it to the industry gives kind of some exclusivity to it, because it's not rolling down with a huge name and a number on there. I mean, I don't mind even possibly putting maybe a magnet when it's sitting, putting something on there so somebody else could identify it, customer. But if officials need to identify it, then, if I need to increase a logo or sticker, then I can do that as well.
Well,
I guess I'm not...
Yeah, I would just say on a vehicle for hire of a taxi, you may want to get into more of a quickly identifiable, this was the vehicle, it was this color, had this words on it, had this number on it. On a vehicle for hire of a limo, you're making the call, setting an appointment, knowing exactly who you asked for to come and get you. So I would think it might be a little bit different in markings of the vehicles and all that kind of thing, because you're asking for that person to come to your house or wherever, pick you up, take you wherever. You know who you're asking for. Whereas a taxi vehicle for hire, it's all visual. It's just there's a vehicle.
I see that. I mean, I see it. I'm not asking, I certainly wouldn't want to see a big 300 painted on the side of these cool vehicles. But I just felt like a little more easy to recognize something on there. Would have made sense to me, but that's all. I'm not saying you have to squash this because you don't have some big yellow logo on the side of these vehicles. It just seemed like some sort of front plate, back plate, something larger than like a parking permit sticker. I'm seeing like a parking permit size thing in the window. And maybe that's fine. I just felt like a little bit larger recognition would have been helpful. That's it.
Okay. Ma'am?
No, I just had one question.
Oh, sir? We have another question from...
Okay. And I know you have the right to set your fee, but in looking at the previous application and this application that we're focused on, there's a difference of about $85 per hour, and I was just wondering about the charges for limousine services.
Different vehicles require different rates, because a Lincoln Town Car versus an Excursion versus another vehicle, and the amount of time they're going to use, that would justify me setting those rates there.
Thank you.
I will not leave until I'm dismissed this time.
I've got a question for staff on logoing and marking. Is there any requirement by the city to mark vehicle for hire? And if so, do they meet the requirement?
The limos have to be marked with the decal. There isn't any specific size requirement.
There isn't? Okay, thanks.
I just want to ask, how many vehicles do you have in service?
Right now, I'm just trying to get 2 authorized.
Well, you have 2 you want to get into service. You're asking for you're asking
Up
for
to.
You're asking
I have-
for
I-
10.
Yes, sir.
Great, good. Yeah. So he's got 2 ready to go once he's approved. Okay. Any other discussion, comments? Okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield, to approve item 5C. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved.
Thank you.
Wish you luck, sir. Item 5D, Moji Habaji, 1006 Southwest 84th Street, number 5, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73139, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Moji Habaji, doing business as PARS SUV Limo, for a certificate in public convenience and necessity to operate 6 vehicles in limousine service. Do you have anybody here to speak on this item? No one signed up, but would you like to speak, sir? Okay, you can just wait, just in case we have a question. That's fine, either way. Okay? Can we have staff input, please?
Okay, the only thing that's probably considered out of the ordinary on this one is on page 2 of your report. You'll notice that we added some comments about the name of the limousine company, because there is another company operating in town known as Paris Limousine. The logos are somewhat similar, and so we have left it to the commission to determine whether or not the applicant's name and or sign pictured meets the requirements of 5624D. But other than that, we would recommend approval of the application.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have a motion concerning item 5D.
I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner Jenkins. Do we have a second?
I'd second.
Okay, we have a second from Commissioner George. Do we have any discussion on this item?
I have a question for the applicant.
Okay, sir, if I could have you come up, state your name and your address, and when we're all done, fill out one of the green sheets, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Mohsen Haji Bawai. I live on 1006 Southwest 84, Oklahoma City.
What is the name PARS?
Pars is it's a Persian name. It's the ancient Persian. It's just Pars, P-A-R-S.
Like a family name? Is it a...
It's Persians, like Romans, Persians. Pars is the old name for the Persians.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I Googled it to try and understand if it meant something.
But it's
To
very
the-
nice. It's short form. Yeah.
Okay. I believe I had one other question. Let me just check my notes. I did also look at the logos, and at a glance, it's kind of confusing, the Paris logo. So, and to some of them. I mean, what did you, as considering the name, did you look
Well,
at that?
I
or
wasn't-
had any?
No, I wasn't
Point of
even
view on
thinking
that?
about Paris or anybody else. It was just my name that, it's just national name, something like that. And then that logo that it's just like, it might not even be there, or, it just is a SUV service, it's not a taxi service. So I have a license plate at the front part, and if there are any other problem in the future, I can, just reconsider some other names.
I guess I'm just wondering, is there something that you could consider now? I mean, whether it's the fonts, the something to make it a little more distinguishable from Paris, or?
I can put it farce if you want. Instead of parse, I can put it F instead of P.
Oh, and I'm not asking you to change your name. This is just me and you talking
no.
right now.
I mean,
so for
I'm not even worried about, like, I'm not,
I don't think you'd want to use farce.
okay.
Our common language. That just feels bad for you.
Okay.
So, okay, I think that answers it. I just wanted to understand where
Thank you
you're
so
coming
much.
from with your name. Yeah.
This is information we pulled off the web. This is how Paris Limousine has got their name displayed. It doesn't appear on the side of their limousines. It appears on the sides of their party bus.
I did see the Eiffel Tower version of their logo. They also have some uses where it's not in there, which created a little more confusion with PARS. But I get a little too picky. You can ask my husband that. Okay, I'm good here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
To me, at a glance, they're very similar. Is there anybody here from Paris Limo to make a comment about their opinion of any similarity? Apparently not.
Okay, anybody else wish to discuss this item?
I just wanted to be clear. This is just for SUVs?
Yes, ma'am. It's just SUV, and, I'm just opening up this company, so in the future, I've been very busy. I've been driving for 9 years, so I have a lot of customers, and I put it up to 6 vehicle. It's just right now is SUV, yes, ma'am.
So is SUV going to be part of the logo, part of your name?
Yes, sir.
So it's PARS SUV?
PARS SUV, yes, sir.
Oh,
Limo,
okay.
Oklahoma City.
Limo SUV.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I see.
And that is what it would say on the license plate on the front?
Yes, sir.
Or would it just be PARS?
There is no number on the license plate. It just says PARS.
But on the previous photograph, on your side decal, you have other information as well. That would not be on the front license plate? Where the phone number and
there is
Limo
no phone number on the
SUV?
license. No.
Okay.
The license plate is just PARS.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Any other talk on this item? Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Jenkins, seconded by Commissioner George. Can we have your votes, please? Okay.
Thank you.
Item is approved. Okay, item 5E, Keith Gibson, Blue Quail Ridge Homeowners Association, 2713 Northwest 158th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73013, to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Sugar Loaf Drive and Northwest 150th Street. We have several people to talk about this. We'll just keep one of them. Okay. All right. So we have 3 people who want to speak. It's up to you who wants to go first. Anybody? All right. And when you get up here, I need your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Okay, my name's Bill Shawn. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association in Blue Quail Ridge. And first of all, I want to thank the city for a beautiful job on this report. It's very well done. Several things that couldn't be put on the report. There's 400 homes in Blue Quail Ridge, 200 in Seminole Point. Seminole Point accesses this intersection through our neighborhood. And then 240 units, 200 of which are occupied in the apartments across 150th. In probably, 90 days, 120 days, you all would know better, 150th between May and Portland will be finished as far as being a 4-lane. So then the traffic can really move good. The sidewalk on 150th is on the other side of 150th. For anyone from our neighborhood to access the sidewalk, they would have to cross 150th. There are several big lines already in place that the apartments that were going to be built put in there several years ago. So that's at least part of an expense that the city would not be out because the electricity is already there. And then I guess the most important thing, Summit Elementary and Santa Fe High School are both east of this intersection. And between 7:30 and 8 in the morning, we have a lot of families turning left onto 150th. And if you're at that intersection at 150 between 7:30 and 8 in the morning, you would swear that the sun comes up at the end of 150th. So they're turning into, they're looking directly into the sun. So their vision is not only hampered by the little hill there, but by the sun. So, and that's just a few little things that couldn't be put in the report. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. No, thank you very much, sir.
My name's Dwayne Pitts. I live at 15809 Shadow Mountain Drive in Blue Quail Ridge, and I have experienced in the last about 3 years of trying to exit from Sugarloaf to 150 is very difficult. I drive a Jeep Wrangler. I sit up pretty high. I can see pretty good, but when I drive my wife's Mazda, you can't see the traffic coming from the east until it's right on you. Now, the speed limit's 40, but that doesn't, most people drive more than 40 on that street, and it's very difficult to get out onto that street. You feel like you're taking your life in your hands. It's almost as bad going out on May Avenue, going out on the west side. So that's the only two ways out if you want to go in that direction. So anyway, we just feel like that light needs to be there. The wiring is already there. They put that in several years ago, so the cost would be not as great as if it was starting from scratch. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, sir.
I'm Bob Steinert from 2828 Northwest 154th Street, also in the Blue Quail Ridge subdivision. And I won't repeat what the previous speakers said, but I do really want to urge the Commission to seriously consider traffic control there. I've noticed distinct increase in difficulty getting out of that subdivision, especially turning east on 150th in the last few years. And it's going to go nowhere but up with the continued development on the south side of the street and all the things that gentleman before me mentioned. So I would appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks to all for your time. Sir, can I have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got our complete report before you. In the recommendation section, we note that under existing conditions, without traffic from the development or coming development on the south side of 150th Street, this particular intersection will meet Warrant 2, which is the 4-hour warrant for considering a traffic signal at the location. If you go further into it, based on the 85th percentile speed, which is observed, the posted limit is 40 miles an hour on 150th, but the 85th percentile is running around 47. We could evaluate the signal based on reduced warrants for looking at Warrant 3, which is a peak hour warrant, and using the 85th percentile speed, it would satisfy that particular warrant for signalization. Knowing what we do about coming developments on the south side, and knowing that this location currently meets one full warrant, and based on the 85th percentile speed would meet another warrant, we can recommend approval of the traffic signal at this intersection as requested.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
Yes, time has come. I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve from Commissioner George.
I'll second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Do you have any discussion on this item?
Given approval, how long does something like this take to turn around?
Well, that would depend. We just received an application for a continued phase of development within that property that's on the opposite side of 150th Street from the Blue Quail Ridge subdivision. If, as a result of that particular development, they're required to make traffic improvements, which could consist of installing a traffic signal here, if it's done privately as a traffic impact mitigation measure, it might be done sooner than it might ordinarily, leaving it for public funding. If it's to be funded as a public signal, it would go to our unfunded traffic signals list, and as bond funds are made available for it, something like that would be constructed.
Could be a while.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Do we have any other talk on this item? Yes, sir.
I visited this site in a Ford 4x4 pickup, and I couldn't see to the east, and I was up really high. I'm glad I wasn't in my Fiesta. I'd still be there. So from that alone, I think that this warrants this. Plus, given the potential for new development on the south, I think that that's probably going to be, realistically, that's probably going to be some real high-density residential rather than something else, and it's going to exacerbate it. So I fully support it.
Okay. Any other comments, sir? All right. All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Witcher, to approve item 5E. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved.
In reference to the neighborhood at Blue Quail Ridge, I will pass this information along to our solo motorcycles and see if we can do some speed enforcement as a temporary solution until the lights are put up.
Thank you very much. Okay. Item 6, comments from citizens. We have several who have signed up. Well, is David Batson still here? Yes. Sir, if you'd like to go ahead and, seeing as you've already been up once.
Thank you. Yeah, David Batson. I take this time to talk about the vehicle for hire ordinances.
Okay, sir, just so we make it clear.
David Batson.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, let me have your name and
4225
address. You have up
Southwest
to
44th Street.
You have up to 5 minutes.
I'll try to be a lot quicker.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
We several years ago, the ordinances were changed, and at that time, it opened up the industry, per se. That's good and bad. Before that time, to hold a certificate of necessity and convenience for either a shuttle or a taxi cab, it was a prized possession, and we took it seriously. I know Roger and I both, we were proud of that, and we wanted to make our companies as good as they could be. We put money back into the companies, and we continued to grow our businesses. We changed the ordinances for the good, I guess, to open up business. But when we did that, we didn't put any restraints on what could be used for a vehicle for hire and the financial stability of some of these people that are coming in. When you don't have a strong financial backing, you're never going to have a nice representation of Oklahoma City for people that are coming in. We've built this city up greatly in the last several years. We see the new people coming in. I talk to the convention people that come in. I transport a lot of them, but sometimes they come out and they can get into that 300, 400,000 mile vehicle that's not going to be representative of our company. I just hope that we could get working quicker on these ordinances. I've talked behind the scenes for almost 2 years now about what are we trying to do to get it going. And maybe, we could just put some restraints on quality of the vehicles. Maybe we don't allow anything over 10 years to start. I'm not for sure. Just something to get our quality up there. Just doing that will, I think, help our whole city out in that sense. We have some other issues that I'm sure other people are going to talk about, the Uber and stuff. So there's other reasons to get working on a new, updated ordinance. And I'm happy to give you my insight of what I've done for many years, and I'll be happy to do it at any time. And thank you.
Mr. Batson?
Yes, sir.
Do you own and operate taxi or just
I do not.
a shuttle?
No. I feel that that's owning a taxi cab and a shuttle service. I'm kind of pitting my guys against each other, and I don't feel that that's fair for the business. That's just my opinion on that, and that's just where I'm at. But no, I do not.
And so some of your concern about old vehicles and not a good representation is for airport shuttle services?
For all vehicle for hires. We line up at the airport. There's cabs, there's vans for all of us. We all advertise. Anybody can call anybody. They're hoping that what they get's going to be the decent vehicle. You don't want to put your mother into something that it's a rattle trap and has some problems. It can pass inspection and be okay. I mean, we have restraints on having the ASC certified mechanics look at it. I understand that. But you still get more wear and tear. You know, just a 200, 300,000 mile vehicle makes more noises than one that's 100,000 miles. It can pass a mechanical inspection, but thank you.
Yes, sir. So if I can have your
Chairman
name
and
address.
Commissioners, Roger Andrews, President of Yellow Cab
You have up to
Company,
5 minutes.
107 Northwest 14th in Oklahoma City. We talked about Uber last month. We have ordinances in place that we spent a lot of time, 4.5, 5 years ago, many meetings, discussions, and they're obviously not being held to the same ordinance as we are. And I just don't understand. We have an ordinance in place, and I don't understand why it's not being enforced. If we were doing that, we'd be getting written tickets as a company and our individual drivers on a daily basis. And you know, when you've got an outfit out there that comes in, doesn't ask for permission, doesn't, you know, go through the traffic commission, the city council, and, you know, and they don't have some of the things that we're required to do, including commercial insurance, I think we're going to have some big problems. Now, other cities, if you'll see, Dallas has finally realized they've got a problem, and many of the other larger cities, and they're dealing with it. But we have an ordinance in place. We spent a lot of time on it, and I don't understand why everybody has to abide by that except for one, and it doesn't seem fair to me. Any questions?
What are you observing?
What am I observing? Well, I'm observing that people are being picked up, okay, in violation of the ordinance. They don't have any permits. They don't have any licenses. They don't have commercial insurance. It's my understanding they don't have their drivers alcohol and drug tested. It's my understanding that they don't even do background checks on them. So that's, you know, those are all things that a commercial vehicle should be doing in this city. And that's what our ordinances indicate.
How does this get resolved? I mean, what
Well,
is
yeah.
this a PD? I mean, are they where does this come together?
Where it's
How's
at
it
right now,
enforced? Yeah.
where it's at right now is the city manager's office is reviewing the current rules compared to how Uber is operating to determine if they're not in compliance or if they are in compliance or if what they're providing is not part of our vehicle for hire system. So that evaluation is still going on. I asked Stuart to get a hold of the city manager's office. He reported back Friday that it's still being researched. And that's the status that it is right now. It's still being looked at to determine if Uber is a vehicle for hire and if it falls under the vehicle for hire sections.
Is there any chance it's not?
Well, I don't know. So as far as how it would be enforced, we talked about it a little bit last meeting, no, that's fine. No, but what we talked about, and it's good that we bring it up again, is once it's determined that they would have to comply or are out of compliance or something of that nature, then we would think somebody would get a hold of them in a formal type of letter or something to advise them that they're in non-compliance and how to get compliance in the city of Oklahoma City.
Is that somebody, the commission, or is that somebody?
No. It would be either the sergeant from our area, our licensing bureau, our city manager's office. Somebody would let them know that what they're providing is not in accordance with our current rules. So that's if it's determined that it's not. So there was a couple points that got brought up. First one was if they're doing something that's okay, it's not in violation of anything, it's whatever, they're just doing something and it's fine, then life goes on. If they're in violation of our rules for vehicle for hire, then they need to be told that. And of course, you wouldn't want to go write them a $750 ticket right away. You would probably want to tell them, hey, what you're doing doesn't comply, and then go on from there. Then they could come and submit their application to comply to our operating standards. So that would be like the second point. And then the third point is, if they're doing something totally different that should be approved, then they would have to come to us and say, hey, we would like the rules to be read like this, and therefore we could operate in an approved way. So really it's three different things that we talked about last month that we wanted to get passed to the city manager's office, city council, those kind of things, to say, hey, we need to determine what is it that they're doing, and they've done some research on who they are and what they do. How does that apply to our city ordinances? And that is the research that's still being done by the city manager's office. Is how does what Uber, UberX, Uber, all the different Ubers do, how they interact with our current rules to determine if it's a violation or not.
How's their voice getting to the city manager? What's their forum for it?
Well,
because it matters.
Well, when we pass our information to the city manager's office, and when the sergeant has passed the information through the PD area, we talk about public safety. The reason why we have these rules is for public safety. So that way our citizens will know who's picking them up, that they have all these different things to make sure that it's a safe environment for them. And then the second point is we have companies that have worked really hard to comply with those rules that we set up to help our citizenship be able to be transported. Is it fair for them? So it's a very urgent issue. And I, as the chairman, have asked last month for a review and a report, and then we said, okay, it was last Thursday was the first correspondence to say, okay, where are we at, where are we going? And the report back is it's still under research.
Did they say with an expected date
I asked, and the answer was it's under research. So that's as much as I can push as the chairman. City council meeting is tomorrow.
But if we start a new company next week and we operate outside the ordinance for the next 4, 5, 6 months, I'm not going to be able to come down here and get permits from y'all. You would vote me down, and rightly so. They're aware of the ordinance. They know every city has ordinances, and they just came in here and said, this is what we're going to do. What are you going to do about it? You know?
Which I think we as the Traffic Commission has done as much as we could, which is to ask the city manager's office to complete their review and report at this meeting. And it's still under research. They haven't been able to make that point that you wish to be made.
Okay.
And I'm just saying in a general way, I can't push anymore.
All right.
No.
Does Mr. Andrews, how does he reach the city manager? Through us, or does he go through city council?
Anybody can go to the city manager's office, just walk in and say, hi, I'd like to talk to somebody. They can come to city council, which city managers report to. It's all in their mind. If the city is not reacting quick enough, all I want to say is we as the traffic commissioners have asked to try to get it done within a month, and the report back is it's still under research.
But if we failed to purchase a permit or a license and that driver was pulled over, he would get a $750 ticket. So if that, and I have no problem with that, but why does our competitor not have to worry about that? No permits, no licenses.
One second.
If an Uber driver gets pulled over without a permit, are they getting that $750 ticket right now?
Well, we'll have to ask the license. So let's wait on that. Okay, sir.
Mr. Andrews, did I understand you correct that you have observed this, people currently being picked up?
We've had people ride with them, sure. We have asked questions about, hey, how do I become an Uber driver? Do I have to have this, or that? No, I haven't had to do any of that stuff.
Okay. What concerns me is, and I understand the city manager's, I'm sure, busy and wants to make sure everything's correct. but for what I do for a living, I've been a licensed insurance agent since 1979. I understand that if I get in one of these cabs and I'm paying for that ride and there's an accident and it's investigated, there's no coverage. So we're putting the citizens of our community at risk, financial risk, to where they could very easily be injured and not be compensated, have medical bills out there that are not being paid. And that's really not fair to the citizens if we don't take some type of stand saying, you best be aware if you get into this cab. You've got to, and it's not fair to the public to make them say, I need to see your insurance before I get in and take a ride. Our citizens should be assured that if it is a cab operating in Oklahoma City, that we've done our part to make sure that they are protected.
Sergeant Danzy's not written any tickets to Uber. I'm sure he's written tickets to cab companies and limousines and just everybody else, the last 6 months, but they've not been written one ticket.
And just so everybody up here and out there know, I have forwarded the reply from the city manager's offices to my Ward 4 Pete White, city council rep. So that way he's aware that we're trying to get a choice made on this issue. And the reply was it's still under research. So how much of a hot issue it is in the city manager's office could come from the city council area. We tried to make it as hard as we can.
But in other cities, the only thing that they've understood is when they were written tickets for being in violation. That's the only thing that they understood. Yes, until then, they're not going to change anything.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Does an Uber cab look like a cab, or is it a private vehicle that just...
It's a private vehicle.
Well, I think we could ask Sergeant to come up and talk about any further research. Or
I apologize. I missed last month. So if you're having to repeat things for me, just...
No, that's fine. Why don't you wait one more? We have 2 more people that wanted to talk. Mr. Allen, do you want to come on up? And then we also have Mr. Cummins. So if I have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Joey Allen, 4801 Northwest 10th Street, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma 73127. I'm sure you're getting tired of seeing my face in Uber at every one of your commission meetings, but I just want to second what both of the gentlemen before have said. It certainly is time to relook at those regulations. To Commissioner Schuline's point earlier, limousine companies can start with only 1 vehicle. Taxi cabs have to have 5, and there are no other qualifications really that I'm aware of. So we have a lot of taxi cab drivers who are buying 1 town car and sitting in front of hotels doing taxi cab rates regardless of the rates that they show you on their applications. They're doing taxi cab rates, so they're basically an unmetered taxi that's running that way. That's a huge concern to us. Thank you for passing the information along to the city manager's office. We look forward to hearing that back very soon. To Commissioner Yokel's point, at the end of the day, a vehicle for hire is a vehicle for hire. Same thing to Commissioner Hale's point. Somebody's paying somebody for a ride, and the mode of how that ride is arranged is irrelevant based on what we discussed last month. So if I'm paying you for a ride and you're taking me in your personal car, that's a vehicle for hire at that point, because it's not just a friend doing a friend a favor. Somebody's doing a commercial act. It's a commercial service for somebody. So I don't understand why it's difficult to figure out, that either Uber needs to pay, get licensed, or each individual chauffeur, driver, whatever you want to call them, needs to get a business license and go through the process that the rest of us have gone through so that they operate, and they operate safely. So thank you again for your time, and we look forward to hearing more soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Sean Cummins? Sir, if you...
I think Sean left.
Oh, okay. So, feel free. You already filled one out. If I could have your name and your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Sure. My name is David Glover. I just bought a house near Rob Littlefield's ward over in Brookhaven, but I'm at 2800 Guilford Lane right now. And it's one of those things where there's 2 parts to the conversation, and I totally understand sort of the legacy of regulations dealing with taxis and limos. And I'm sure when all of them were written, the GPS, smartphone, texting, all these other things did not exist. So what's interesting, and I've read the car for hire, and I may or may not have been an Uber driver in the past, but I'm currently not one now. The way the car for hire actually is written, I started reading it the other day. If my brother calls me and says he's been drinking too much, can I come pick him up? And, hey, I'll buy his pizza. That actually would actually fall under a car for hire because you cannot take any compensation. So I think that we need to sort of rethink how, the new age is working. And that would strictly be illegal in the city of Oklahoma City. If he said that, I will buy you a pizza if you come pick me up. So what's happening is that the whole thing is couched as public safety, and that's what everybody's talking about. But I'm going to give you sort of a different perspective on public safety. If you make it hard not to drink and drive, people will drink and drive. If you make it easy not to drink and drive, people will not drink and drive. People should not drink and drive. No one should. No one should drink after one drink. But what happens is that people's judgment goes down. And as you raise the bar of hurdles on how difficult it is to actually extricate yourself from a bar or restaurant, you increase the chances they're going to do it. And I've heard from, and Sean actually called me and told me the story. He said a lot of difficulty getting cabs to show up. And I totally understand it. I mean, I would much rather be downtown if I was a taxi or cab. But the thing about it is that if somebody on a north side restaurant calls a cab, they don't know when it's going to show up. It might be 30 minutes. It might be an hour. If the cab shows up, another patron might take the cab because, the cab driver doesn't know who called or not, and then the person's waiting again. And so as you increase these hurdles, if you want to talk about real public safety, talk to people that are actually taking Uber right now, and there are lots of them. And they are doing it, and they are rabid fans. And the reason why they're rabid fans is they can pull out their phone, they can click something, they can see that the car is going to be 10, 12, 5 minutes away. They get a text message when it shows up, and it makes it very easy not to drink and drive. The taxis and cabs, of course, in certain cities have the exact same technology. In fact, Uber will allow every single taxi or cab in Oklahoma City to have the exact same technology and put it in their pocket tomorrow. The reason they don't want to do that is because Uber, of course, wants to take a percentage of, the take by providing the technology and creating the ability to make it easy. If you think about, and I know there's a lot of good taxis and cab drivers in Oklahoma City, a lot of really good people doing a lot of good work, and then a lot of the money is staying here. But I will say, if you talk to people that are taking both, there is sometimes a different perception of who is picking you up for Uber versus a taxi. The cleanliness of the car, whether or not there's been smoking involved in the car, things like that. And they're feeling very comfortable about it. The other thing is that Uber in some way acts like an all-seeing eye. If you think about it, no one knows I'm getting in that taxi. I don't know the taxi driver's names. He doesn't know my name. I could be a bad person. He's probably not. Uber does do background checks. That's one of the things that's, a misnomer. They do. But the thing is nobody knows I'm in that taxi. Uber sort of creates a new, different dialectic and perception. They act like an all-seeing eye. Uber has the Social Security number, a background check, has looked at the person that's doing the driving, and they have a lot of information about who is driving in that car. And they have GPS location of exactly where that person is. Variably also, the person that's getting in the car, they have their credit card, they have their phone number, they have their GPS coordinates. So the thing about it is now the possibility of shenanigans or people feeling uncomfortable sort of drifts away. And the relationship between those two people is quite kind of good because they both in some ways know, and like cops on the beat, when you know cops are on the beat, people act better. And if you know there's an all-seeing eye that sort of knows about what's going on, both people feel more comfortable. So I'm saying that I totally understand the legacy regulations, and I would feel the same way that taxis and cabs do about it being an unfair playing field. And that makes sense. And there's obviously options. You either have to say, and I've read the city manager's report, Bill Crum from the Oklahoman had a copy of it. And, the city's looking at a couple of different things. Let them operate, shut them down, or try to figure out how to make it work. And the thing about it is that my recommendation would be try to figure out how to improve the system. My feeling is the amount of people that are taking taxis and cabs are like this circle of people, and because they're there. And then I also think that it's not necessarily the same circle that's laying on top of the taxi and cab systems that are taking taxis and cabs. There's an alternative where young professionals that do not want to drink and drive, and you will be amazed how many people don't want to drink and drive, and when you make it easy, they don't, are a subset that is sort of outside. So there's probably some crossover, and there's probably some need to look at them. Yeah, and I'll wrap it up. Sorry, thanks. The main thing I want to leave you with is be careful that the cure isn't worse than what you're thinking you're treating, because there's an alternative to all these things, and it's good to sort of leave an open mind, but I understand their position too, and if you have any questions.
Well, sir, just a couple points. Just just to throw it out there, a few things. One of the things that we look at when we regulate for the city is that they provide a service to the whole city, the whole geographic part of our city. It's my understanding from the Uber website they currently don't do the whole city.
I will tell you that.
Well, I mean, I'm just throwing it out there that's a concern.
I have seen people be picked up and dropped off in Norman and Guthrie and past Edmond. So I would say it's outside of Oklahoma City.
But my understanding is the website has a map that shows where Uber operates.
That's probably just somebody, graphic design department created that.
The second one is the lack of not taking cash. Cash is an approved way to pay for stuff. A good number of the people who use taxis, as you said, that circle, is the financially underserved, which may not have credit cards, et cetera.
I have a response.
Well, okay.
Okay. So two things. Number one, if you think about it, many times I've heard from people say that the taxis have a credit card machine that's broken. And I can understand that sometimes it probably is, but they probably don't want to take credit cards because it takes a while to get paid, the driver gets paid later, et cetera. The other thing is that sometimes they don't have change. And so the person feels obligated to, pay more. So the thing about it is with the cashless system, it does two things. It makes you feel comfortable that no one's going to want to rob anybody because there's no cash in the system. So it actually makes it much simpler and easier and faster. So the person gets in the car, they say where they want to go, and when their destination arrives, they're out of there because everything's done through the GPS. And also, it's been said that you have to have a smartphone. Not true. You can use texting, and almost every phone does text, and you can call a car through texting. But that is,
And then one last point is
I think it's safer not to have cash in some ways.
One of the major concerns we have with a taxi service was 24/7 operation. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock Saturday, to get picked up anywhere in the city to have that function. And that's a concern of ours also, is to be able to provide that function that the taxis have to provide. So and you're exactly right, sir.
There might be some crossover on alternatives.
There may be crossover and alternatives, but nobody has come and said, we want to operate in this environment with these rules that you don't have. We recommend you make these rules, and then you could operate. Nobody has done that. And so we can only say, this is what's current, and is it a violation or not?
I understand.
So we do want to move on from there.
Sure.
So, questions or comments, ma'am?
Comment.
Yep.
This sounds trite, but it works. There's this vehicle for hire party here. They're coming through the back door. We're asking for people, if you want to enter the party here, come through the front door, legitimately. I have a lot of opinions on your information, but it summarizes in, come through the front door and don't wiggle around the people that have already gone there before you appropriately. That's where I net out on that. I don't care about all those other items. Yes, safety is utmost, but saying doing it inappropriately doesn't make it any safer. So that's my only point.
Okay. Any other comments? All right. Thank you so much for your time. Okay. So, anybody else for comments from citizens? Okay. Before we move on, Sergeant, do you have any more information from the last time you briefed us about Uber and that kind of stuff? If you could come up and give a summary so we can move on.
Actually, I do not have any more information. You've addressed it. The responses that I got from the city manager's office is the exact same as yours.
Right.
Is that it's still under review at this time.
Right. And for you to not go enforce just yet until we make sure it's an enforceable issue.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Hold on one second.
How do you know it's an Uber vehicle when are we currently, have we stopped somebody that's an Uber vehicle?
That is one of the issues that we're looking into. Anyone's car can be, they're not identified by any particular label whatsoever.
So if they're speeding, there's a person in the front seat driving, there's someone in the back seat, they get a ticket, you may never know they're even a vehicle for hire?
As of the way they operate right now, I could literally be sitting right next to an Uber car, look that car entirely over, and never know it was an Uber car.
And you could have your folks stopping them for some violation and leave this stop and not know they just cited an Uber vehicle?
That's correct.
Well, that's a deal.
That is part of the anonymity in it is that you just don't know.
And if you do know, if they do identify themselves, right now we're not citing them as being out of compliance with the current vehicle for hire?
We're not citing them as of right now. It's because the ordinances that are being under review, and just as Commissioner Kulis advised, is that we're looking to see, are they in compliance? It's more to it than just how they come to the Traffic Commission and received a license. Beyond that, we know they have not done that, obviously. Beyond that, that's what we're looking at is the way they operate, the way their business is ran, the way they conduct business to the public. Is it required for them to go answer to the Traffic Commission? And that's one of the things of many that are being looked at.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to step so outside of bounds, but if that feels wrong to me, if they're not, if we're asking people to not write a ticket to an Uber driver because we're not sure of the regulation, but we know they're a vehicle for hire. If the officer knows it's a vehicle for hire, it feels wrong that they can't be cited while we're figuring it out. I don't mean to be stepping on toes. That just feels a little awkward to me. Is that...
Well, that's the concern, and that's why we asked the city to take a month and do that review and then to come back and let us know, and that just didn't get done. And so it's still being worked. And that's just the way it is. I would recommend you contact your city council representative if there's a further concern.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Okay. You have other comments, sir? Thank you, Sergeant.
It's, I try to, I'm purely commenting. I try to analyze why this entity is even around. And I'm seeing two parts. I'm seeing a delivery system using an iPhone that I think that probably has some real tremendous conveniences to it and may speed the process of a person wanting a ride to make that quicker. And I'm also recognizing and clearly understanding the violations against the ordinances of the system. I clearly understand that. But even after the past couple of years of being on this commission, I still don't know everything about vehicle for hire. I understand they have to have a building, and I understand they have to have a monitored communication system. Is there anything that would prohibit existing licensed taxi cab and limousine services from doing these kind of iPhone app communication, show who the riders are, how far away they are? Would there be something that would, in the ordinances, that would prohibit them from doing that? Or could they do it?
Well, right now, the ordinances were written for you call on a phone to a dispatch center. The dispatch center then therefore gets a taxi assigned and then contacts that taxi over a two-way radio system, and therefore that taxi then says, I'll take that call, and they go take the call. So we talked about at the subcommittee about vehicle for hires about phones. Could they take a dispatch over a phone? And I believe we said that would be okay. So yes, they could take a dispatch over a phone. A cab company could set up a system whereas they track the vehicles and they figure out who's closest, and then they send text messages or do something like that. The concept was a dispatch center being able to receive, get some sort of system set up to provide a service to the entire city, and then use their resources that's available to provide the best service to everybody. And that's what we basically came up with. And that's the technology. And again, if somebody comes up with a different technology, I'm sure we would be happy to look at it, and if the industry would agree to it, and it would provide even a better product, then yes, I would assume that we, as the policy counselors to city council, would say, hey, this is a great idea. but nothing has come to us with better technology way of doing work.
It just seems to me that the attractiveness of Uber is the convenience of communicating with the driver. And if the current licensed taxi cab and limousine services would be able to provide that type of system, boom, there's your competition, and whoever does the best job stays, and whoever doesn't out of sight. So
it just seems like, just in a general way, this product that Uber is providing in this area right now seems to be more on the limo side than more of a taxi side, because they're not sitting at a taxi stand, they're not driving down the road and somebody waves them down and picks up a fare, they're not doing the wait time. It appears, I'll pick you up, take you three blocks, wait 2 hours while you shop, and then take you back home kind of service, which is more of a taxi service. A limo service would be, hey, you call up and say, hey, can I have a limo today at 2? And a limo shows up at 2 to take you to go do something. So it seems to be more in that realm. But even as we just talked about with the limos, they have to be marked. They have to have some sort of way to identify it. And you know who you're getting. And so, those are the things that we talked about. And this is why it's such a hard thing, in my opinion, for them to make a final clear, okay, here's the violation, here's where it's not, here's the line in the sand. You either got to get on this side of the line or try to move the line. And that's where it's kind of at right now, I think.
Well, and I'm completely sympathetic with the argument. I think it's such a unique, out-of-state sort of all this thing going on. I think it's going to take the city a reasonable amount of time to figure out how to deal with it. And I think it's just going to take some patience, but I know the city is not going to ignore them. It's going to be done right, whatever right is.
Okay. Anybody else wish to have comments concerning this one item right here? We'll move on. Okay. So, no more comments from citizens. Reports from the commissioners. Commissioner Witcher.
Nothing to report, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield.
Oh, boy. The Traffic Calming Committee will be meeting after this hearing is adjourned. It'd be the second meeting. I'm going to jump around quickly. On North Military Avenue at 58th Street, you all will recall that was vacated. 58th Street was vacated a couple of years back. At the north end of Military Avenue, Chesapeake has installed a cul-de-sac, which is on it's Chesapeake property, but it serves Military Avenue at 57th Street and 56th Street. It needs some kind of dead end or no outlet signing. Is that something that the neighborhood needs to go through a petitioning process? They're requesting that be signed.
No, if it's a dead end, it can be posted. That's not an issue.
I think that's it.
Over to Commissioner Hale.
I would just like to add my concern for the financial responsibility of any vehicle for hire. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but that really concerns me. That we're putting our people at exposure, and I understand we need a reasonable amount of time to check it out, but with that time, if we have anybody hurt and there is no coverage, that's on us. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. To Commissioner Schuline.
Nothing to report, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Jenkins. No report. Commissioner George.
Just on the cul-de-sac sign, that's on private property. Is that part of the parking lot? Because if it's on private property, the city won't add that.
They're physically not connected, but regardless of whether or not there would be a cul-de-sac there, it's still a dead end. It's still a dead end.
Well, I understand, but if it's a private road, private property, the city cannot go out and put one up. Is what I'm getting at, because I tried to get one on some private road as well, and they won't do it. So.
Military Avenue is a public street, and it dead ends into a cul-de-sac in Chesapeake.
Okay.
So I can't see a problem.
Yeah,
Right.
I guess if you put it before the private road, yeah.
Right, and if posted, it would be posted probably at the nearest public street intersection. in advance.
Okay.
And Commissioner Yonkel.
I believe I've said enough.
Counsel? Law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chai?
Just our standard report on yield signs installed, and we didn't have any parking regulations installed administratively.
Okay, thank you very
That's all
much.
I have.
Need to mention about our meeting in January. Just recall that the third Monday is the Martin Luther King, so we're pushed to that Friday. So for your calendar, make sure you have that on there, that it's the Friday after Martin Luther King birthday holiday. Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Littlefield. All those in favor to adjourn, please vote. Please vote to adjourn. Please vote to do something. All right, thank you very much.